That being said, you mentioned the book banning, the mouse, and I think to some degree, like To Kill a Mockingbird got banned and stuff like that. I have a hot take when it comes to that, and I am actually not that concerned with book banning.
What do you mean?
I'm not I understand the sentiment, and my gut reaction is to be really upset that like these wonderful, great books are like not being taught in schools, because I think they're incredible learning lessons for youth and people as a whole.
There are so many books in the world that like just pick another one.
But here's the thing, here's why I don't really have an issue with it. The moment that you tell me, or the moment that even as a parent, the moment that you hear somebody say, you can't read it to your kid.
So what do you, okay, that is true.
Go pick up Mouse.
100%
go pick up
true.
To Kill a Mockingbird
so
and read it to your kid.
Because right now, the reason why it's such a hot topic is because of the race theory, not being taught in schools.
Yeah.
But they're banning these particular books in southern states where majority of the kids going there with, not majority, but a lot of the parents there don't want their kids to learn about race.
That's true.
So they're essentially raising more kids that are going to be ignorant to the problems of the world.
The problem with that is that even if that book was taught in school and that kid would have learned that, and the kid would have been like, this is their parent would have been like, that's bullshit.
But that's not necessarily true because you're a different,
we were raised by Catholic parents.
Sure, but our parents are also extremely progressive.
No, but that doesn't take away from the fact that our parents have really, really, really conservative values that I no longer
they have traditional views, but they're also incredibly progressive.
But think about all of the views that your parents had that they would have wanted you to share, that you're like, nah, you cannot convince me that that's what I believe.
There's a lot of views that our parents share that they don't, like, for instance, there's a lot of views that I have that my parents do not want me to have.
Like which one?
Like abortion. I've mentioned
our mother probably yes, our father will be okay.
Absolutely
but it doesn't
not.
matter.
Our father has both of them have specifically told me that they believe that it is a sin. Even our father who is way more progressive than our mother is like, how could you do that? You could never do that. You should never do that to a kid. How could you possibly ever even consider it?
Okay.
When I was completely under the impression that he would be a little bit more about it.
But the difference there is that our parents did not raise us to follow their footsteps. They 100% told us to find our own way.
A lot of these families here,
and if you told them that you're for abortion, they would not disown you.
You have to remember the fact that like we as immigrant kids, we're like kids of immigrant parents, are living a very different lifestyle from kids who were born here, raised here,
100%.
families of generational here.
100%.
So to them, getting just an inkling of information about the Holocaust could be very vital in changing history as opposed to us.
100%.
Well, if we get taught about the Holocaust, we can relate it to our own experiences as immigrant children. Thus, our views are already way more progressive than theirs would ever be. But theirs, even just having a black friend is going to change their life. So erasing a book just because they don't want people to know about the Holocaust can be a huge ripple effect. Even if it's just tiny.
It can have a ripple effect. But what I'm saying that even if you if you're that kind of kid that might find some sort of like curiosity and might feel like some sort of like doubt in your mind about like the way that you live your life or something like that, like the moment that you see that something's not being given to you, go find it.
But that's not how kids work, though.
How would they know that it's being banned for them?
Exactly. Like, that's not how...
Because it's on the news right now.
Kids don't watch the news.
What fucking kid is looking at the fucking news to see what books are getting banned from their school? Like, you're thinking of this in such an idealistic way. And that is not the way that TikTok works.
How many kids in the school system right now are actually reading as a whole, to where the majority of kids don't give a fuck about books?
Sure, but it doesn't matter, because when I sit in school, even though I don't want to fucking be there, I am getting new information that I wouldn't have fucking gone out to look for. And that information, some of that information, I was like, holy shit, no fucking way. Seriously? And then I start paying attention. So yeah, it's not like those kids are dying to get their fucking like parents' views challenged.
Right.
But that's the point of fucking school, as you go and it's a safe space and you like learn shit that you wouldn't have wanted to go out. No fucking kid is going to school being like, I want to learn about whatever.
Well,
that gives you the opportunity to those kids that are also sheltered, and because those parents, you're saying like, well, then those parents would have taught them like against it already, so it doesn't matter. But the thing about, especially like I don't want to say millennial parents, but a lot of parents in the South and a lot of families in the South, they're not necessarily teaching their kids to be explicitly racist, but they're ingraining very like subtle racist ideologies. Therefore, in their head, they're not teaching them to be racist, but the second that they see that they're gonna point out all the things that they have been ingraining in them that are racist, they just haven't called it that, and it's much harder for them to identify it as that, then that's where the fucking problem begins.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And that's what critical race theory is doing. Right. And that's why they don't want to they don't want it in the school.
I'm with you
so
there 100%.
Those parents are not, of course they're not going to go out there and teach it on their own, because the point is that they don't want their fucking kids to know about it, because that would crumble so much of the way that they were raised and the ideas that were put in them.
I get all of that.
That they don't want it to be challenged.
I get all of that 100%. Yeah, I get that. I get where that comes from. I just don't think that impact in this moment with today's culture, with the way kids are, with TikTok culture, with social media, with all this, I don't think that the absence of a book is going to the reason why we had a Donald Trump presidency is because the education system is fucked from the very beginning. So the idea that there could be people like me who I really enjoyed reading, I remember To Kill. I think Scout is like an amazing character. I think Atticus is an amazing character. Steinbeck is phenomenal. My favorite author is T.S. Eliot. Like, yes, there might be somebody like me out there that might grab at the leaves, at the fruit coming out of this tree in subtle ways, and then find themselves or find like a deep love for it. Yes, 100%. That might happen. But as a whole, even when we were in school, like the people I went to school didn't give a fuck about that shit, whether they taught the book or not, whether the book was present, whether the book was not present. But what was impactful is that even at the school that we went to, which was it was woke before woke was a thing. Our school was like super woke before woke was a thing. So what was impactful is that there were kids there whose parents had subtle racist ideologies that came from the suburbs and things like that. Those things absolutely did exist. And those kids, just by being around me, got a little taste of it. And the parents, like our parents, that encouraged further learning, that encouraged, despite the fact that their values might differ from us, that parents that were like, no, we're going to teach you this, and you're going to go out and you're going to be an example for this virtue, for this thing. That did happen, and that made the difference. The book itself being taught there was not necessarily
schools,
what made the
you're
difference.
You're not talking about Mobile, Alabama, where this will never be.
But
I get that
like,
100%. If you were to tell me the solution to end all of this is for you as a person to go make friends with people that are not like you, I'm 100% for that. That's an actionable thing. You can teach somebody to go do that. You can teach a kid. You can find a big brother, big sister program somewhere where you yourself can do that. That's an actionable thing. But the idea that these young children are going to enjoy reading, first of all, because that's not a fucking thing.
You don't go to fucking school to be like, I'm going to enjoy reading this fucking book. And nobody is they don't assign books because they think we fucking enjoy them. They assign books because they're necessary. Good tools to get those kids to realize that. So yeah, to that point, there are kids that don't go to diverse schools, and those books are giving them that world that they are not fucking seeing.
100%.
And it's so,
and to your point, pick another one. Mouse is not the only Holocaust book.
Well, of course.
Anne Frank is not the only Holocaust book.
The issue is the minute that they ban one, they'll start banning more. Because more people will be like, well, I mean, does it really matter if they ban one?
Exactly.
So what about the other ones that they start banning? Let's say it's not just about the Holocaust. Let's say they start talking about MLK. Let's say they start talking about the Chicano movement. Let's say they start talking about all of these other movements that are very important.
They're banning the topics. They're not banning the books.
Sure. I get that. And I don't think that that's going to be in this country, I don't think that that's going to be a dramatic ripple the way that you think it might be, because there are way too many people that understand the value that you're just saying. If you understand that that's happening, you're going to then be like, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is when I build a family, when I build these things, this is what we're going to do.
But you're thinking about it from the point of view of the people who do want the books in school.
Well, yeah, exactly. And
that's not what the books are there for. You know what I mean? Like, they're not, like, the point of, like, teaching those things is to challenge those who are not, like, who don't subscribe to that belief system.
It's not for people who think like
you. I get that
So
100%. But I've seen more people.
Those parents are not going to go out of their fucking way because they don't want the book in their kid's life. That book, though, being a part of that kid's curriculum, is going to give them the... Okay,
but a might is better than nothing.
Chance, at least, of challenging those views that they were taught. And that's the fucking point. Like,
yes, I get that 100%. But I'm saying that the hope is not lost because there are plenty of people that believe what we believe, that we're going to be out there.
But nobody's worrying about those kids.
Yeah, and
you know
the
what I
issue
mean?
with
Like,
that, I feel like you're looking at this from the point of view of somebody who lives in the city. Around people that have a lot of different ideas and the opportunity to meet another person that has a different idea than your own.
You're thinking about the kids that you already expect to be progressive,
or
you know
or not
like,
even progressive. I mean, I'm sure here in Houston there could be a lot of people that come from different backgrounds than us and have different ideas than us, and maybe are more on the conservative side, but they have the opportunity of going to school with people that are more liberal, or having a quote unquote big brother
an impact, exposure.
But again, going to these areas that aren't in these big cities and have basically an entire town that thinks the same way.
100%.
If in their curriculum they have a book that forces them to talk about the things that they don't want to have to teach their kids about,
exactly,
then it's going to be able to possibly open up some of them kids' eyes.
Maybe, except if Mobile, Alabama, for example, if Mobile, Alabama is that homogenous, it's not getting taught anyway. Those people weren't getting that information anyway.
But maybe they have
and
that
that's and that's the problem I have with the education system as a whole, is that like in these little pockets of the country, you're not getting the right information anyway. They haven't been getting the right information for 50 plus years. Why are you mad about it now? Like, they haven't. That's why something like a Donald Trump 2016 presidency happened, because there's an ability to capitalize on the miseducation of large portions of voters that have more weight power in their vote than people that are in progressive cities. And that has been happening for decades.
But that's to say that people
that
have
book
also
is not being taught there, regardless of whether it's in the curriculum or not.
Okay,
but number one is that, do you know that for a fact? Number two, then are we assuming that other people have not been advocating for those things to change for as long as they have been like wrong? You know what I mean? Like,
no,
you're saying why are you mad about it now? It's like, who's saying they're mad about it now? I'm sure there's been a lot of people who have been advocating for that shit for years.
And to that point, I'm not like the biggest like proponent for like the like social media in certain aspects, but I do think social media plays an incredible part in this specific type of thing, because anybody can get on Twitter. Any kid from Mobile, Alabama can get on Twitter and Instagram and all these things. So if they even see it there, they're gonna be like, what the fuck is all the commotion about?
But that's like, I understand that social media gives you the opportunity to like reach other people and other communities that you're not a part of, but that's not necessarily like a given. You know what I mean?
100%.
Because if you're if you're following and the people that you follow are all subscribe to, like, you
might be in an echo chamber.
You can still create like your own little world virtually. You know what I mean? So that's not like, you can't be like, oh, well, those kids are gonna be on social media, so they're gonna see it anyway. And if that's, you know what I mean? Like, if they're gonna change their mind, there's gonna be other ways for them to change their mind. That's not necessarily true. But even if there is, like, it's also not wrong to advocate to keep creating more spaces to challenge those views.
100%.
I also want to go back to the point that you were talking about. Even if we're talking about, kids that are in, neighborhoods that we live in, in bigger cities and stuff. Even if these books are taken out, you say that, their parents or other people around them should kind of step up and do that teaching instead.
They should, yeah.
But the issue then comes, I mean, maybe they're living with a single parent, or maybe they, are around people that have that time to give that education. And at the end of the day, what is it that we expect our school system to do? And I think that's what it comes down to, is the idea of like, what is our school system doing for our kids if they are taking that away from them?
I agree.
Like, you're supposed to be the
100%.
one educating them on this stuff.
To be fair,
and now you're saying that you're not going to do that.
I'm not saying that I'm for book banning. I'm saying that I don't think the book banning is going to create the bigger ripple effect that people. I think book banning in the 1950s was a lot more drastic than book banning now.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that it's still not an issue.
It might still have a negative effect, but I'm saying it's not going to have the most negative effect that it used to have. I'm saying that because even if you are a single parent, I don't care if I'm a single parent. If I have a child, my job is to educate that child to the best of my ability.
Sure.
Whether they're in school or whether they're not. Whether they're in private school or whether they're in public school. That is my job as a parent.
Yes.
So if I see something wrong, then I'm going to say, hey, let me go ahead and learn you something real quick. Like, because we have time, fucking a bedtime story or some shit.
The fear is right now is that since it's being banned in a lot of states,
rural southern states,
rural states like Alabama doesn't necessarily have like a super big city. They are now posing these questions in a state like Texas, where Texas does have bigger cities like Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, all these bigger cities with inner city kids and whatnot that do maybe know a little bit more about it like we do. But even then, we didn't really actually learn too much about it. If we actually look back at it, they sort of talked about it. I sort of read Mouse. I ended up learning about it later on in the future per my own looking into it. Mm-hmm. But well, I think where people are fearing, because I have a lot of friends and or knowing people that are teachers, they are afraid of the fact that if it's being banned all over the state, it will be banned in schools like the HISD district, where even if you are an inner city child, teachers will no longer be allowed to talk to you about it. So even if a kid does want to ask a teacher like, hey, I read this book, what about it? They're technically no longer allowed to talk to you about it. Thus creating this idea of like, I have to pretend like it doesn't exist when I want to tell everybody about it. Yeah. And teachers know about it a little bit more than we do, because obviously they're teachers.
Because they went to school, they learned some shit, they went to college.
That's why a lot of people are fearing the book bans,
yeah.
because fearing a book ban could also mean restricting, like, you know, history books, changing history books to only
but they've been changing history books. That's the point that I'm making.
We get that. But the idea
even our history books right now, you learn
it
like
right now.
but
they're trying to include more right now.
You don't want them to be worse. That's the, you know what I mean? Like, that's the point. It's not, we get it. The education system is shit. Those books are not, you know what I mean? Like, they're not changing everyone's fucking lives. But the point is that if it's already fucking bad, no, you don't get to fucking make it worse. And also, like, school, like, you're thinking about it from, like, kids who go to school and then go home to like mommy and daddy who are raising them. That is not the case for everybody.
100%,
not every fucking parent has the time to sit down and do homework with their kids.
Get that. And that's
for a
tragic
lot of
too,
them, yeah, that's tragic. Therefore, as sad as it is, as tragic as it is, school is the only place that those kids are gonna get those like ideas. It's the only place that those kids are gonna get that knowledge. It's the only place that those kids are gonna get that education.
It might be the only place that they get exposed to that knowledge.
And you're taking it away from them.
It might be the only place that.
And that's the point.
But the sad truth, again, another sad truth to that, if that is a sad truth, which I agree, the other sad truth to that is that even if that is there, it will get consumed very little.
But those kids still matter.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like,
I matter. I learned it, and I matters. Yeah, 100%.
When we sit here and we're like, but how important is it? It's like, to us, it might not be important because we already went through it, and because also we already know that.
Right.
We don't need to be taught. Well, not to say we don't need to be taught more. We can always learn more, but you know what I mean? Like, that is not a priority for us. But to a kid who is starting to go to school and who doesn't know shit, like, that might be make or break. Even if it's just one kid out of a school of 500, it doesn't matter. To that kid, it probably was make or break.
100%.
And that's why it's important. Like, there is, you know what I mean?
And chances are they're going to get it, if not at school, they'll get it somewhere. They'll get it somewhere.
You are literally a monster.
No, because I didn't get some of that at school. I got it somewhere.
Stop. Nobody's talking about you.
But I am an example.
Sure,
you got it somewhere. You didn't get everything
example.
in school. She got it. She gets it from me.
But I got a lot of it at school. You know what I mean? But I got a lot of it at school. And also, it's not just about my experience. That's the point.
I've also gotten stuff from
inner city immigrant kid.
Experience.
You're not a kid in the middle of middle Texas.
I get that.
But you don't. because you're still fighting against it. That's what I'm saying. It's like you are only seeing it from your point of view of like, I didn't learn that from school. I learned that from this. And if this kid is like this, then it's going to work out. And if not, then it's going to be like this and it's still going to work out. And that's not the fucking truth for everybody.
I think the point that I'm making is that when it comes to these specific topics, like the book banning topic, I think people have I think that people think schools over deliver, and
I think it's
I just don't think that that's true.
I think it's the opposite. I think people are saying schools under deliver. Like, you're not fucking doing enough and now you want to do less? Like, how the fuck does that make any sense? I think that's the problem.
I don't think that they should ban the book. I don't think so. I think the book is great.
But you say, like, you're not against book banning, but you seem to just have a very, like you don't.
I don't think that the banning of it is going to create the bad ripple that it would have made in the 50s. I think that
who's talking about the 50s though?
I'm talking about the 50s.
What conversation are you in?
Because book banning is such a big deal because things like Nazi Germany banned books and they didn't have access to anything else but that. We have access to everything. We have access to absolutely everything.
So let's say, because I think the topic where we're lying at us here is the fact that we believe restriction of one thing means starting the restriction of something else and or opening up the conversation.
That's the fear. That
is the fear, and it has happened though, because they feared that after starting the critical race theory thing, more things were going to start to kind of trickle down.
Yeah,
and it has with the book banning. So to that point, it has started. It has started at least in some states, and it has already started or been in some states. That's why it's been happening. So to that point, the idea that you say that maybe book banning is not that bad of a thing because we have the internet. Let's say we move into a world where the people start to restrict what's on the internet. Because if you continue to give power to the people who are restricting your books, would that give them power to start restricting other things?
And I think ultimately I think ultimately the right is conditioning a portion of America to be less informative so that they can continue having that weighted power because make no mistake about it, there are more people that are progressive than there are conservative people. That is a fact. Just factually speaking, one voter in Omaha weighs a lot more than one voter in Houston, Texas. So there is a lot more. We are a majority by far, by millions of people. By millions of people. So yes, I do think that right-wing politicians with power are trying to slowly maneuver themselves so that the misinformed, uneducated voter that will vote for them again weighs more consistently. I get that, and I agree with that 100%. And I do think that the solution of it is a radical change of political discourse, i.e. money in politics, i.e. a more maybe a third party or whatever radical form might end up being in that route. I don't think that something like a book ban is going to get us. If anything, I think it might create a more outrage from the majority of people that already exist, and then will lead them out to potentially
Would you believe you're part of that outrage,
though?
Would you believe you're part of that outrage? Because from what it sounds like, all three of us are part of the outrage, and you're just kind of like, you're good guys.
And also, again, like you say, like, well, back in the 50s or the 40s, when all these things were happening, it was because of a lack of books, but we have access to so many things. Again, not everybody has access to the internet.
Sure. Yeah.
So, again, those kids still matter. Yeah. And the only place that they're going to get that information is in school. Like, majority of people have internet access. Not majority of people have unrestricted internet access, and not everybody has internet. So for us to be like, but it's not going to be that big of an effect because all of these people are going to be able to get that information, and it doesn't matter. It's like saying like, well, those people, they're not that big, so it doesn't fucking matter to them. That's not fucking true. You can't, like, especially when it comes to kids, it's like you can't be like, well, these kids are the majority and these kids are the minority, and so sorry, like, you know, that's not as important. Like, you can't do that.
Wait, you lost me.
You gotta keep up, man.
You lost me. To your point, I would say that I'm part of that outrage because when I get to vote, I would vote for somebody that is against that. Even though I personally,
but are you advocating for it though?
Huh?
Are you advocating for it?
With my vote, I would.
But that's not the only.
I don't have
way
to be
advocate.
loud about what I believe in for me to advocate in something.
What do you think advocating is?
Voting. You can vote. I can
Isn't
say
that
it.
just like? I feel like
I can say it all day long, but if I don't vote, what good was that conversation?
yeah, absolutely. I think voting is part of it, but also I think advocating is like you're trying to make a case for it so that also other people who might be on the fence, who might be ignorant about it, who might not understand why it is so important, and they can be like, you know what, you're fucking right. That is important.
And there are certain things that I might be more vocal about, but there are some things that I might be like, no, I believe that that's a fair point, and I do want that to happen, but I'm not necessarily too learned about it, so I'm still going to vote for a candidate that might be an advocate for that.
Okay, and that's the thing. I think it's okay to be like, I guess, quiet about what it is that you believe in if you don't necessarily want to throw yourself into being loud and advocating for it verbally. But I still think you have to be careful about choosing your words when you're talking about something that you want to say, like, oh yeah, no, I don't agree with book banning, but then when you go on to say, oh, well, I don't think book banning is as big of an issue as it is, like,
that's contradictory.
yeah,
Maybe, yeah,
yeah.
and you might have a point there. I might come back and say you're absolutely right with that.
But I'm not gonna do it right
not,
now.
not at this moment because
saying,
I haven't found enough information to prove that that's actually right. If anything, I have found more information of people, authors, teachers, people all over the country that have taught. When I looked that up, that are saying, you know what? Read the books anyway. That's your cue to go read the book. The moment
no fucking shit, Sherlock. Like, anybody could have come up with that fucking solution. What about the kids that don't have access to those books?
Because if it's not in their school, it's not in their library. If it's not in their library, it's not in their bookstore.
Are public libraries tied to what's in school? No, public libraries just have books.
You think a 7-year-old has a library card?
No. I'm just saying, like, if just because your school doesn't have it doesn't mean your library doesn't have it.
You open up the doorway for the state to be like, well, since we already banned it in schools, that's just kind of like not having it in the
also,
state.
like, it doesn't matter that they're not
libraries are
banning
federally
it.
funding. They can't.
It
but
doesn't
you
matter
already said
if
that
it's
they've already
again,
not been
like, you're
teaching
thinking
it.
about it, like, we are thinking of, and we're speaking from it from such a privileged fucking position, because yes, if they don't have it in their school library, where else will they fucking get it? I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying it would be so much fucking harder. And probably at that age, at that point, that is not their fucking priority. At that age and that point, that is probably not their parents' priority. And it doesn't come from like a bad parent's like point of view necessarily, but like that's a privilege for you to be able to have it taught and to have it handed to you and explained to you in a classroom, in a safe space with a mentor. That's a fucking privilege, and you're taking that privilege away from kids. Like, we can't keep thinking about it from like but they can get it somewhere else, or like if I did it then they could. Like, that's not how fucking life works. Like, not everybody has the same access to the same shit that we had or that we have right now. Not everybody has the same like guidance. Not everybody like that doesn't apply for everyone, and that's the fucking point.
Yeah, I go back to the idea that I look back at my classmates. I look back at the people around me. I look back to how truly impactful some of those things were. And a lot of those people still don't even know what the hell they were taught. So my distrust in it is not in the book ban. It's in the education system as a whole.
We're at an hour and a half.
That's probably where that comes from.
Please, let's end this.
Yeah, we should probably go, huh? It's 8:30 on a Saturday.
It's 8:30.
What time do you have to be somewhere?
Oh my God. It starts at 9. And I have to go home and get ready.
She's going to do karaoke today.
Fucking tired. This is awful. Like, I literally...
Just cut it short. Just leave early.
Well, it ends at 11, but like I'm saying, I have to go home.
Mm.
And like, get ready.
Till next time, guys.
Bye, guys.